And welcome back to another episode of Life in Prison. My name's Zach, and today what we're going to be talking about is prison politics. What I'm going to need you to do, if you haven't already done it, is hit that subscribe button. And while you're at it, go ahead and hit the notification button also, so you're first informed when I upload. And to the ones that already have subscribed, thank you very much. I appreciate your support and everything that you do. So, as with everything, jail. In this area, there's not too many politics in jail. Now, don't get me wrong. There are certain people that are in these pods that, are affiliated, but they tend to not keep too many people in the same pod that's affiliated with the same thing. Around this area, as I said before, you have the here and there blood. Most of them from out of state. Now, I'm not saying that there's none that's local. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, but most of the time, it's the individuals coming from the cities, bringing their power and infesting the area. Then you got your Crip. You got your Gangster Disciple. We got some BGF here and there. Vice Lords. Haven't seen too many Latin Kings. Some Hispanic organizations. I've seen a few MS-13 members. Legit MS-13 members, but most of them are honestly about to get picked up by on the bus and shipped back. ICE. ICE is gonna come and scoop you up and take you back. Being as close as we are to Baltimore, there's a good bit of DMI members. There's a few skinheads. Not too many around this area. A little bit deeper in West Virginia. That's when they really start popping up. Odin is here and there. But as I said, there's not too many that they put on the same pod, so you can't really group up. To be honest with you, you walk into a pod, there might be a couple, 4 or 5 bloods out of a pod of 30. A lot of these dudes is, getting down the regional. Don't know how much power that holds with anything in general. Honestly, it's not just this set and that set. Like with everything, anyways. It's the prison time that kind of counts. It's hard getting things moved around unless you know a CO or unless you got someone that's doing janitorial stuff and passing notes from sentenced to pre-sentenced, because in between that is the rec yards, so you can't really slide. So the only time you in the hallway is when you go into visits or medical, do anything, but a CO is always right there. Now, don't get me wrong, I've walked into a few pods, but this is back when anybody that's ever been to ERJ know who Big Tate is. Tate's this 400-pound black dude. I mean, he was real cool, man. Like, he was real cool. Getting things back and forth from, sentenced to pre-sentenced, it was hard. So, there wasn't too much going on. Yeah, people got beat up and stuff. Getting knives in the jail, I'm not saying it's not, it didn't happen, but it's harder because you're limited on what you can get your hands on unless you happen to go to medical and get a hold of don't know what. You know what I mean? Go to the gym and get a hold of don't know what. West Virginia prison politics started getting heavier as you go up in classification, security wise, prison wise. So, you know, a lot of these work releases, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of, Bloods and DMI members and a lot of Odinus and, some of the other ones. But you gotta realize that at these halfway markers where you're actually getting freedom in these prisons, people are more worried about getting cigarettes, drugs, and trying to hook up with a CO or some chick on the street, that might be around where they're working. Don't get me wrong, these sets might be making money together, but it's not as... They've got a lot of stuff going on, more or less. A lot of these dudes are either getting out the door or don't want to lose this freedom that they have, because you go from being able to walk out of a building and going off into the free world, more or less a free man with maybe some orange on, you know what I mean? But other than that, you can do anything. So people are focused on that. Now, once you start getting to places like Salem, Town, not so much. Here and there, Stevens Center started getting a little bit heavier on the politics. And for numbers, if we're going to go off a numbers basis, this is how West Virginia prison system goes. Numbers wise, Odinus have all the numbers. Some of these dudes went more toward an organization route. You know what I mean? They had a little bit more rules. They really moved like an organization. So, hands down, they had the numbers. And then I would honestly say it was next in line was DMI, for sure. The dogs, there was a lot of us. We definitely had the numbers. Bloods and the Crips was there. Vice Lords, there wasn't too many of them dudes, but those dudes, this is how it really should be at the end of the day. No matter what organization may be out there, having numbers at the end of the day doesn't make you strong. What numbers does is it exposes more weakness. It exposes more flaws. What I want at the end of the day is not having to worry if someone's behind me, or if someone's to my left, or if someone's to my right. I shouldn't have to do this. You know what I mean? Just because you have numbers doesn't mean that someone's going to be there. But at the end of the day, I don't want a bunch of faces. I don't want that. I want people that are dedicated in what they believe in. I would say one of the downfalls to what I can speak for is I can speak for myself and my own account of what I saw, what I witnessed, what I lived. What I can say is the issue with certain organizations is that they didn't care what type of individual you were. They wanted numbers. Unfortunately, I couldn't pick and choose, who carried the same jersey as me, who rocked the same color as me. I can't stop that. Dude might be getting a lot of money from home, right? His parents might be loaded. Bring him in. Dude might be hitting on the K2 right now. Bring him in. Dude might be hitting on the tobacco. Bring him in. Dude might be clicked in with the CEO. Bring him in. Dude might have these hands. Bring him in. You get the point. Find out what type of an individual this person is prior. And it's not, as I said before, you don't get beaten. Like, in my head, why would I ever want to put my hands on one of my brothers? You get what I'm saying? Why would I want to injure one of my brothers? So now if something pops off, now we just jumped my brother in, but he's got a broken rib. What good is he now? Putting someone in a situation where it's them and them alone, not having 10 people behind them. See how they handle that situation. Can they stand on their own 2 feet? Or do they now got a set of balls because there's 16 around of them? Now they got a big set of balls. But if you take those balls away, now you know what you got. Nothing. Are they a rat? Have they told in their hometown? Do they beat their children? Do they beat their wives? You know what I'm saying? Do they mess with boys? As I said before, at the end of the day, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if you mess with boys. But there's certain rules and regulations for some of these organizations where that's frowned upon. You know what I'm saying? Do you have a gambling habit? You know, there's a lot of things that can really start disrupting the flow of things whenever your priorities aren't the same. Gambling, for one. You don't want to gamble. Not only do you not want to gamble, you don't want to gamble on someone's table that might be a complete different organization. Do you know why? Because if you're affiliated, now it's you and 50 of your homeboys versus them and 40 of their homeboys. Just because maybe dude betted folded a hand and didn't like it and $5 was lost in the pot. Like, you get what I'm saying? This is why I always tell people, prison is not hard. Prison is literally how you make it. No one's forcing you to go and do this. No one's forcing you to go and do that. As long as you go into prison as yourself, or jail at that, even better. Because everything starts at jail. So as long as you go into jail as yourself, and unfortunately if you ever have to go then onto prison, it's easier just to transition being yourself. Because if you go in trying to be, Murder Mike or Cocaine Kenny, you know what I'm saying? If you go in as this character, you've got to carry that life with you for the whole time. You are phony. Someone will try you, or someone will know who you are, or someone will have heard of your name, or someone will remember you from high school. The truth always comes out. So now if you've been telling this big lie, and it could have been dumb, it doesn't matter if he was getting money or not. Not everybody rich. Like, I don't care if he was homeless or broke or what. Who am I to judge you anyways? I'm definitely not perfect. It boils down to this, right? Say you're not a killer. Or you're not a knockout artist. Or you're not fucking Pablo Escobar. Now, I promise you, you will be put in a situation where you've got a dude standing in front of you, facing you, with a knife, wanting to kill you. So, if you truly cannot handle that type of a situation, do not start telling stories of somebody else claiming to be you. Some small situations get worse very fast. As I've showed before in the previous video, dude got killed over a Bible verse up at Mount Olive. Mind you, he was a baby raper. I'm not saying he had it coming to him, but, a lot of people don't like people touching kids. Whenever you go to prison and just say that you are a part of an organization, even if you're not, alright? Mind your business. Don't go and putting your nose in places where it shouldn't be. That's how you get fucked up real fast. So if you see people over here, sharpening knives or rolling up tobacco, don't go around and start talking about it. Keep that to yourself. You know why? Because just say that you see something like this happening, right? Like, old boy sharpening up a knife. You run over here and be like, hey dude, dude's over there, sharpening his knife up. What if the man you just told that to has something to do with that, and now he knows you're running around telling everybody? Whenever something happens, say I did something that you didn't like. Okay. Instead of getting both parties riled up, if me and you want to hit a one-on-one, something like that would have to be sanctioned. As in, the top from my side would have to then communicate with the top from your side. As I said before, DMI gets a rap for jaying people out. And as I said before, it boils down to respect. Just don't mess with us. That's it. Let us do what we need to do. But if there's an issue, then we're going to prove a point. Now, do I feel like that's fair? Yes and no. It depends on the circumstance and who it is and what it's about. If I feel that I'm going to take something from you, then I'm not going to do it behind your back. I feel now that that's cowardly. If you think that you're man enough to take something from somebody, then you need to take that from that person in front of them and have them then to decide if they want to try to fuck you up or not. People go and steal something from somebody, right? The person comes out their cell and announces to the whole pod, whoever stole my stuff, you're a fucking bitch, your mom's a bitch, you're a whore, your mom's a whore. That's the line that you get whenever something like that happens. So now he's called you out your name, he's disrespected your family, but they don't do anything. These few people that know looking at you like, you gonna let them say that to you, bro? I know you did it. I know you heard that. You're not gonna say nothing? Those are the times where the real truth comes out. And this is why I say it's easier to be yourself. Because, hey, if you could have been that knockout artist, why aren't you doing it now when he just called you out your name? Not every prison is the same, and this is for learning purposes only. That's all. I don't want anybody to try to recreate anything that you see. Strictly learning purposes. The moment that you sign your name onto someone else's check is the moment that someone standing across from you is going to have a knife and want to use it against you. So now you have two options, okay? You can either A, not have a knife, or B, go and make you a knife. You kind of want to keep the playing field even, right? Okay, so my first knife, as I said before in a previous video, was from a nail off the big yard. So I'm going to break down how I did it, alright? So went and got the nail, as I said before, snuck into my shoe, brought it in. So now that I have it in my cell, what I did is you get a toothbrush, not a state issued one. You buy one off commissary. It's like $2, but it's a regular Colgate toothbrush. So you take the toothbrush, you cut the toothbrush in half. All right. Then you take, get a little wick, hair grease, make a little wick on it, and you need heat. You need continuous heat. It's hard getting a fire in prison, so you need something to keep burning so you don't waste your lighter. So after you cut the toothbrush in half and you got your nice rusty nail, you start melting the nail into the toothbrush. So after it's all said and done, it's gonna look kind of weird, but it's gonna be like an ice pick. So at the end, this is a crude version of it, but this is exactly what it would look like. What's good about a nail sharpened is with the puncture wounds, the site will be so small it's hard for them to stitch up. You know what I mean? It's very, very small. That's why a lot of people use ice picks. It's just, it does good damage to organs, but it's hard repairing the wound. It's very, very small. Me personally, there's a lot of guys that take razor blades and they make little makeshift things out of those. I'll end up probably doing one of those here anyways. I've had one. You gotta realize like this though. If it got to the point where you feel like you need to try to take this man's life or that you want to stab this man, right? You're trying to stop him from doing something. Whether it be moving, whether it be punching you, whether it be running, whatever, breathing, whatever it is, you're trying to stop. So if you have a razor blade and you slice somebody, it doesn't really hurt. It stings, but it doesn't really hurt or stop you. Now, if you get hit in your lung with one of these though, you know what I'm saying? That's going to slow you down. Something like this is going to stop somebody over a razor blade. So afterwards, you take a string, a shoestring. You can take a string off your state issue clothes, but you need to wrap the handle up in a string. And the reason being is, even though a toothbrush might have rubber grip, once blood comes in contact with your hand and this toothbrush, it's going to then slip. Now, I didn't put a handle on this one because I don't need one out here. I was just making a nice little crude fast one real quick. But normally the smart thing to do, to drill a hole through and through, put a nice little string on there, and then tie it to your wrist. Because once the blood starts getting on here, you don't want it to slip out. Like, you don't want it to slip. Having a knife is detrimental. Now, you may not have to even use it. That's very good if you never have to use it. That's a very good thing. That means another individual didn't have to get hurt. But if it comes up, you very well need to be prepared about what's about to happen. You need to fully understand the consequences that's about to ensue after whatever you do. So there's been multiple times I've seen people go into prison with a 1 to 5, and unfortunately they don't come out ever, because then they caught a murder charge in prison and now they're doing life in prison even though they start out with a 1 to 5. But whenever you start having the different organizations, especially different sets of Bloods, and different sets of Crips, because there's a lot of rolling 40s, rolling 60s that I know, they didn't really bang with each other, but whenever push come to shove, they all grouped up as one. There's only a handful of times where it's been all-out war, where you walk in the pod and there's nothing but craziness going on because there's, 17, 18 people just going at it. You got 5 dudes on this side, 9 dudes on this side, 2 of these dudes got knives, 1 of these dudes got knives, and all you got to do is watch out for the dude that's got his hand down by his side. Another funny thing is, whenever you're in the pod, right, it's all cement floors. whenever somebody drops their knife, you can hear it. It's very, very distinctive. There's one time I was up at Mount Olive, and I had my knife, and it was in my sock. It was about this long, so it was all metal. I just picked this thing up off the yard. Like, I was taking it to my cell, getting ready to bust it down and get the moving with it, right? But we just came off the yard. We had to wait for our doors to be popped. So I was sitting down. So I got up and it fell in my sock. All you heard was ding, 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 ding. That's all you saw. That's it. So that's exactly what I did. I started looking like a prairie dog to see who was doing what to blend in. So as everyone was doing, I just sat back down and waited everything to die down. Slowly picked it up, put it in my pocket, and went into my cell after the door was finally popped. That got my heart racing because you don't want people to know you have a knife. Like, you know what I'm saying? Some of these dudes, even though if they're up on the gang unit, there are snitches up on these units. These are the moles that are inside these organizations, but the organizations don't know that they're snitching. And I know it's a touchy subject, but prison rape, what I can say is only what I saw during my time of incarceration. From 2011 to 2016, I didn't see anybody get raped. And I'm not just talking about like with my eyes, I'm talking about while I was there at the facilities, there was no instances where anybody got raped. And the reason being is there's so many individuals out there that are willing to give it up that people don't get raped. They weren't getting raped while I was there. You'd be surprised though. There's a lot of dudes in prison that have wives and kids. They doing 10 years, but they messing around, with they celly. There's another thing that was an issue, and it kind of got a little messy. So you'd have these individuals that would be a part of something, right? Whatever it was. They'd then jump ship and join something else. It's not like you go to Sam's Club, get your little membership, and then cancel out after a couple months. Like, people are doing that, and your heart's not in it. At the end of the day, I feel that, if you learn a lot, you get what I'm saying? You gotta think some of these guys would come in, learn the ins and outs, right? They'd learn the ins and outs of these organizations and stuff and gangs, and then jump ship to another. Now, it's kind of like you a Russian spy, bro, or get dealt with. There's a lot of times people did get dealt with. People end up getting stabbed up on the center yards. A lot. People get stabbed up on the center yard a lot. Just because there's no cameras in at nighttime, the lights in the corners didn't really work at Huttonsville. Now, Mount Olive, don't get me wrong, Mount Olive had that big tower, but it was lit. It was very, very lit. Now, there's a few places you get away with it, walking around the field, or the path down on the other end by the softball fields. Like, if you go down that way at nighttime on the path, it gets dark. People have gotten killed on the weight pile. At the end of the day, if something pops off, it doesn't matter where there's a camera, where there's guards. It's going to happen right then and there. You got to realize, even if the cameras don't catch you, inmates are going to catch you. Like that, there was a dude named, there's a dog named Jordan. Some shit popped off, and dude was standing at the phones. There was like 7 of us hitting. This is when the whole thing with me and Shake went down. When he ended up slapping the goggles, and he got worked in the cell. We worked that man, But while that's going on, there's 7 other dudes out in the pod going crazy, and dude was just standing there. Why ain't you jump in? If you ever see this, I got no respect for you, bro. Like, I have no respect for you at all. There's another dude, had a big AK-47 tattooed on his face. He was another one that had thought it was cool to get a little name title, and then whenever something pops off, you dip off. I know what you did. So anyways, the whites and the blacks up at Mount Olive, that's where it got a little more hectic. So this dude runs with these guys, okay? He's alright, more or less, you know what I'm saying? So, second day on the yard, Trooper, he just happened to have the weed and got me clinked in with that. Unfortunately, a couple days later, Baby Raper got killed on the weight pile, almost had his head taken off. It's like this. There's not many situations, but when there are situations, most of the time there's a killing or a stabbing. These guys are bigger dudes, they've got more time, and they're more worried about their name because they know they have a long sentence ahead of them. So they don't want to live the next 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years in prison with this bad name because of this one instance. Whenever people are getting stabbed, you don't really... It takes a little bit for it to click. At first you think they're getting hit, but at a very weird angle. Like, you think the person punching them doesn't know how to fight or punch because it's at a side. But then you realize after, 4 or 5 swings that there's holes in t-shirts and there's blood and dude's not fighting back. He's trying to get away. Coming out of prison, adapting to the real world, it gets hard. It is hard. I remember the first place that I'd ever went to was Sheetz. After I left out of Huttonsville and got discharged, I walked in the Sheetz to change from my state white shirt and khakis, into another white V-neck and basketball shorts. The moment I got at the car first, as I'm leaving, I feel weird because I'm in a moving vehicle. I hadn't been in the moving vehicle for years, other from being transported from either prison to prison or from jail to prison. Opening the door and getting out at Sheetz parking lot was the weirdest experience of my life. There were so many people, and when I say there's so many people, most of the time in prison, even if you're not a part in anything, you tend to just watch everybody. You know what I mean? You never want to be too careful, you just watch everybody. Walking in and having people shoulder to shoulder with me, it was very stressful. It took a couple weeks, it took a couple months actually for me to get adapted to being normal. There's a few traits that I never lost. I said I'd never leave out the house in slides, and I never leave out without a knife. It's instilled in my brain. This huge tower, you've got this massive rec yard and handball court, you've got a gym, and you've got people walking dogs. It's like they've tried to make an oasis on the top of this mountain because they've got some very violent, life-serving individuals. So they try to keep things as peaceful as possible. What you don't really see up there is a lot of horse playing around. And that being, it's a lot of younger dudes running around, being loud, trashing the place, You don't see that. More people are more respectful just because most of the young cats that's in there are serving life sentences. So they've grown up very, very fast. That was just a little something slight to show you some of the prison politics that go along with West Virginia state prisons. As always, I want to thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. And then, if you haven't already hit the subscribe button from the beginning of this video after I said something, then you better hit it now since you watched all of that. So, thank you very much for your support. And as always, I send my most love, loyalty, and respect. Have a nice day.